Hello, and welcome to the Budget Knitter Podcast. My name is WSpargurKnits. I am your host. I am coming to you from Henderson, Nevada, where I live with my two dogs, Princess and Duchess. And today is episode 35. It is about a week after I normally post a podcast. I try to do a podcast every 2 weeks, but things get in the way, and such is life. However, I'm so happy to be back here with another podcast for you. I want to say welcome to all of the new subscribers. I think since the last podcast I uploaded, I've gained about another 350 subscribers, which is amazing and incredible. And I believe that came from the Grocery Girls and Ross of Smells Like Yarn. And I believe there may be the Crafters Party podcast, which is Megan, who I love. Hi, Megan! So I think there have been a few different podcasts who have mentioned me recently, so I really want to thank all of them for giving me the shout out, and thank all of you for coming and subscribing. I really appreciate you coming and supporting this channel. For those of you that are new, you can find me on Instagram as WillMSU. You can find me on Twitter as WSpargurKnits. You can find me on Ravelry as WSpargurKnits. You can find this group on Facebook at facebook.com/thebudgetknitter. There's a bunch of other social media things, which is all in the video description box below if you are interested in going and finding me there. You can find all of that there. Excuse me. Whew. Every time I get excited, I start burping. Is that weird? So I made a lot of notes, and normally I would print them, but my printer's out of ink, so my computer's now precariously right here. So, woo. Okay, so also another thing for those of you who are new, we have a Ravelry group for this podcast, which is the Budget Knitter Podcast. You can search that in Ravelry and go and join in on the Finished Objects of 2019 thread. That thread is a celebration of finishing objects from January 1st through December 31st of the year of 2019. We did that for 2018, and we're doing it again this year. It is just a celebration of finishing objects. There's no prize or giveaway or anything associated with that. It is simply a, hey, look at this thing that I made. And everybody goes, yeah, awesome, great job. That is really all that thread is for, and I love popping in there and seeing what you guys have created. I am really bad at keeping up with Ravelry. I have been recently making more project posts in there. The thing that happens is a lot recently I've been making a lot of things and then just not taking photos. So there's all these finished objects, and then I have no photos of them, so then what's the point? Wow, that train is loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I live about a mile from some railroad tracks, and they go through at the weirdest times. I mean, they come through at midnight and blaring their horn, which is weird and annoying. Anyway, so yeah, go to the Ravelry group, join that thread, show us your finished objects, and celebrate everybody else's. It's really fun. I really enjoy doing that, and I hope you will too. A few other things for those of you who are new and don't know a whole lot about me yet. I have two different shops. I have my Budget Knitter Etsy shop, which is where I sell things like stitch markers. Sometimes I sell some of my handmade items. I also will sell some hand-dyed yarn in that shop. That is where I started doing hand-dyed yarns, and I sold it in there, and it was completely non-profit, so I only charged the cost of production, and I still do that. But I have since grown with a lot of encouragement, and if you have watched The Grocery Girls, you have seen that I have now grown into the Spargur Yarn Company. And so that has a website, which is SpargurYarn.com. You can find the link for that in the video description box below. At the time that this podcast goes up, I will just be ending a 20% off for the crochet month, which is the month of March. But you should still pop in there and see what I have to offer. There's a lot of really cool things. And if you subscribe to the mailing list, you're going to get a 10% off coupon to use on the shop. Also, I think, if I remember correctly, I also created a coupon code for that shop just for you guys, just for the podcast viewers. So, I can't remember. I think I did. When I find it and remember what it is, it will be in the video description box below, so you can also use that coupon code. That is just specifically for the viewers of this podcast, because I love you guys, and I want to remember you guys for being the people who encouraged me to take it one step further. So that's there. So that's Spargur Yarn Company or SpargurYarn.com, and then there's thebudgetknitter.etsy.com, which is where I sell some of the other stuff. And later in the podcast, I am going to show you some of the things that I have on both shops. But let's move right into the podcast. So for those of you who are new and don't know how the flow is on my show, so I go straight into the knitting, which is whips, works in progress, maybe things that are new to my stash, like stash enhancements or new tools or anything like that. Maybe an event I went to. If I had an event, last time it was Stitches West. This time I don't have an event, but if I have anything else to fill in, it'll go there. For those of you who are only here for fiber-related things, when we were done with that, I'll let you know, and you can scurry on along and do whatever else you want to do. No hard feelings from me, but I do also do some life updates towards the end for those of you who do like to follow kind of what's going on in my personal life. So that is at the end of the podcast for those of you who aren't really interested in that part. And again, no hard feelings if you don't want to know anything else about me than the stuff that I knit or crochet. I am not butthurt at all. Okay, so let's go straight into my works in progress. I do have a few, and I am trying to... What do I want to start with? What have I got going? Okay. So, several podcasts ago, I was writing a pattern for this poncho. And it's a piece that you knit flat, and then you fold in half, and you pick up around for the collar, and then you seam the edge, and then you put a border on it. So it was gorgeous, but I forgot what I did, and I didn't write it down, so I now have this finished object with no pattern written. Well, I have like a preliminary pattern written, but I can't remember exactly what I did. Well, when I was at Stitches West, I took the poncho with me, and I wore it, and April from Skano, she owns the company Skano, she was there, and she saw it, and she really, really, really likes the pattern. So she asked me if I would do the pattern in the yarn from Skano. So I am doing that. If you remember, I had started a second one in another colorway of Karen Big Cakes. We scrapped that because we're going to do it in the Skano yarn. So I want to show you... I haven't gotten too terribly far, but this is what we've got going. Again, it's just a flat piece. It's selvage edge on both sides. So there's a one increased side, which is over here. You guys are looking at the wrong side, but it's garter stitch, so it doesn't totally matter. I'm keeping a stitch marker on this side, so I know that this is my non-increased side, and that's, if I start on this side, it's also I'm working on a right side row. So I am doing a selvage edge. And so there's a couple different ways to do a selvage edge, and on mine, so the way that I've seen a lot of people do it with garter is you slip one purlwise, and then when you get back to that end of the row, you knit it on the opposite row. I found that that was actually creating a much tighter selvage edge than I wanted, so what I'm actually doing is I'm slipping the first one knitwise, and then purling the last stitch of the row. Because my purls are looser and it creates a stretchier stitch, which is what I want, because I don't want this edge to start curling in on itself. I mean, it looks like it is right now, only because it's not blocked and it's been shoved in a bag, but it actually is really stretchy and will stay very straight. So that's the selvage edge I'm doing. And the great thing is it's a 2-row repeat, basically, and you just continue on until you use... In this case, it's going to be 4 skeins of yarn. It used to just be 1 cake of Karen Big Cakes, which is about 603 yards. Now it's going to be 4 skeins of this yarn that April sent me. But I want to show you the color scheme we're doing. So this is the like purples and greens and blues. But there are 3 different colors. And so the first one, that's this one. That's the darker color. But then we've got... Oh my goodness, this skein just fell apart. Well, okay, so here's the second one. This is just a purple. It's kind of a tonal purple, which I really like. It's a dark complementary color, so I like that. Try and put this thing back together. Something about just this yarn doesn't like to stay skeined. And then the third color is this lighter purple. Now, what happened was, you know, I'm playing with these colors. She only had 1 of these in the yarns that she had left. She's going to order more, but I actually really like only having one of these, because I think this is going to be like my accents and my border. So that's going to be really fun. So that's these three together, I think it's a really fun combination. It's going to look really, really cute, really fun. So I'm alternating. It'll go this dark one, then the purple, then the dark one, then the purple, and then I'll have one skein of each of this left, which is how I'll do the collar and part of the border, and then I'll, accent the border with this. I'm really excited to be knitting this and putting it together for April. She's really fun and a good friend of my friend Izzy, so I'm just really excited to be working with her because I haven't done a lot of this. Sorry, I didn't realize the sound is on my computer. Anyway, so this is it's a really fun work in progress. I'm excited to show it to you. If you haven't seen this before, you can find it kind of somewhere down in my Instagram feed. Or if you've been binge watching my podcast like some of you have been, it's in there somewhere. Crap. Well, I'm going to have to get that. Ugh. Dang it. Oh, now there's dog hair in it. Okay. I'm just going to shove this in the bag before it gets any more tangled. Okay. Oh, needle size is not on this needle. It's a US 10 or a 6mm. That's what I'm using to knit this. I debated going up to an 11, but yeah. Okay, so when I originally did the first knit poncho, I had this great idea. I'm trying to do a lot of things because I love knitting and crocheting so much. I do both. I made this poncho in knitting, this knit version, and then I was like, well, I should do a crochet version. Because one, it's faster, and two, there are people who only crochet. So I should make the same pattern, but a crochet version. So that's where this other thing of Caron Big Cakes comes in. This is Caron Big Cakes in the Cookies and Cream colorway. And I'm using a 6.5mm hook, and which is a USK. And yeah, so this is really fun. Same thing, no increases on one side, increases on the other. And I found a little trick to keep your edge when you're doing increases on an edge like this. Don't increase in the last stitch. You increase in the second to last stitch, and then on the last stitch, you do whatever the next stitch is that is one little bit higher. So this is all half double crochet. But when I get to the last two stitches, I do 2 half double crochet in the second to last stitch, and in the last stitch I do a double crochet. It keeps the edge long and keeps it from pulling in on itself, so it keeps a nice straight edge that you don't have to stretch. It's already nice and loose and stays open and even. I've found that works great for me, and I've incorporated it in a couple of other patterns that I've crocheted, where maybe it was a single crochet, but you're single crocheting into the last 2 stitches, but you're doing 2 into each of the last 2 stitches. So I would do 2 in the second to last stitch, and then 1 single crochet and 1 half double crochet into the last stitch, just to give that edge a little bit more stretch so that it didn't curl in on itself. And that's working really well for me, and that's actually how I will write the pattern, because I like keeping that nice and open and not curling in on itself. So yes, this is the second perfect poncho. This is the crochet version. I am writing this pattern at the same time. However, this one is a little bit more on the back burner. If I'm doing patterns for other companies, those are at the top of my list, and then these things are kind of at the bottom. But I do work on this on occasion, like if I'm watching Queer Eye on Netflix or something. What else have I been watching on Netflix? I watched Making a Murderer Season 2. Really good. The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. There's been a few really good things on Netflix that I've been watching recently. So yeah, I'm not very far. I have quite a ways to go. But for this perfect poncho, it'll just be the 1 skein of Caron Big Cakes, and then you use the second one to do the collar and the border. So that's what's going on with that. Next one is my Make Your Own Luck shawl, which I'm keeping in this bag. Okay. So here's how far we've gotten. We are getting quite a bit further. I am in the last section that increases, and then after this last color section, which is this nice pink color here, and then my neutral, there will be no more increases, and all it'll do is kind of shift instead of, there won't be any decreases and there won't be any increases, but it'll use increases and decreases to shift this center spine to where it's over here somewhere. So I'm excited to get to that point. I've been doing this as a knit along with Steve of Leading Men Fiber Arts and my friends Rafa and Izzy. Izzy is actually just about where I am on this, and then I think Rafa's almost done, and Steve is probably like 4 colors away. If you go to his podcast, Dramatic Knits, he shows it on his, I think he calls it like on In the Wing or the Understudies, or all of his, or What's Performing, or he calls it What's Performing, because it's dramatic knits. They're all like theater terms. So one's like Take a Bow, and I think that's his finished objects, and then Performing is his works in progress, and then he's got one for like things that he wants to do. Anyway, Dramatic Knits is really cool. I also love Steve and his husband Andy, who are the dyers of Leading Men Fiber Arts. They're great. I went to Stitches SoCal and Stitches West with them, so it's really cool to get to know them. And yeah, so check them out too. Anyway, Make Your Own Luck. This is by Lisa Ross. I'm using US 6s. I'm using 4 different yarns. So the pattern actually calls for 1 neutral and a set of 10 rainbow mini skeins. In my life, rainbows are so cliche. So I decided I wanted to do something different. And another thing that I'm trying really hard to do right now is stash dive. I'm trying to use the things that I have. Not that I'm not buying yarn, because let's face it, I'm buying yarn. But I'm trying to use what I have. So I have my white neutral, which kind of shows up here. This is the Knit Picks Sock Lab yarn, so it doesn't really have a colorway name. Knit Picks Sock Lab is when they're testing out a colorway, and then they decide that they don't like it, and then they sell it at cost. And so at Stitches SoCal was like an $8 skein of sock yarn at 460 yards. So yeah, so I'm using that as my neutral, and then this nice kind of pink maroon color is Miss Crosby. I think Miss Crosby yarns. Sounds right. And then the purple here, so that's a merino silk cashmere is the pinkish one. Then this purple is a 100% alpaca, and it's actually more of it's like a heavy lace weight, but it's still fingering, so I'm using it. And this is Juniper Moon Farms, and I can't remember the colorway name, but that is super, super, super soft. And then this yellow, purple, pink color that's here and here is actually my hand-dyed yarn. That's Dutch Tulips. You can find that on SpargurYarn.com. This is the fingering weight version. I also have a worsted weight version, but I've only ever used my own hand-dyed yarn maybe twice before, so I decided that this would be a great opportunity to use one of my own hand-dyed yarns, and this was actually a really great opportunity to do that because this specific skein that I'm using, when I was trying to dye this yarn, it got windy all of a sudden, so when I tried to speckle it, the speckles kind of went everywhere on this skein, so I decided to keep that one. So, no, that's great, because I've also needed an example of what it looks like when it's knit up, so I'm hoping I'm also going to hit a stockinette section later, because I've got eyelets, and I've got garter, so I'm hoping there's going to be a stockinette section later, and I can actually use this shawl as an example of one of my hand-dyed yarns knit up. So, that's what's going on with this. I'm really excited to be finishing it in, like, the next 6 months. I've got so many things going on. It really does take forever for me to finish anything. Okay. Next work in progress is my hygge blanket. Or, it's got a pattern name, I just forget to call it that. So I'm crocheting this blanket using Red Heart hygge yarn, which is, by the way, so buttery soft. I will probably use it so many more times after this. Oh my gosh. There it is. So this is the rust colorway, and it's this super, it's like a chunky, really, I can't really describe it, but it's gorgeous. So this is the blanket I'm making. It's kind of a lapgan. I'm calling it the 330 throw. because there are 3 sections of 30 stitches, and it's got some just really simple 3x3 cables in it. This is my first time doing crocheted cables. They are gorgeous. They are so much fun. I'm using a 6.5mm hook on this. This is my own design. Really simple. I really love making this. It's got like a weight to it, but it's so squishy and soft, and it's also cool to the touch, but it keeps me warm when I need it. Oh, it's just so nice. So this is going to be a pattern when I'm done with it. I'm also going to do a formal review on this yarn because I've been given the privilege of reviewing a few different Red Heart yarns from Marley Bird herself. Marley Bird is the beautiful spokesperson for Red Heart yarns. So I've been tasked with doing a review on a few of those yarns, and for those of you who have watched this podcast for a while, you know that I always like to make something with the yarn that I'm reviewing so that I can give you a really good first-hand experience with the yarn. So when I'm done with this, there will be a review. I have the rest of this ball and then 3 more to go, so I'm really excited to be getting this done because then I can put it on my bed and actually use it. But until then, it stays in this bag that I have to stuff it in now because it's so big. And I'm going to try to stuff it back in there now, while I think about where I have another work in progress, and I don't know where it is. I think it's under my bed, but I think it's blocked by stuff right now. So, you know what? I'll just touch on it when because the work in progress is also a finished object, because the work in progress is the second one. So I'll touch on it when I get there. So the last work in progress then that I have is this little bandana cowl. My dogs are throwing toys at me. Oh, am I in the middle of a row? Oh my god, I am. Well, oops. Okay, so I'm working on a knit bandana cowl. From a previous podcast, I had a crocheted bandana cowl called the Vegas Cowl, or the Vegas Bandana. And that was designed using Dizzy Blonde Studios yarn. Then I decided that I really liked the cowl, and because I named it the Vegas Bandana, I actually had a skein of my hand-dyed yarn. This is called Vegas Born, and this is sold exclusively at Mad Knitters Yarn in Henderson. So you can't get this online. This is specifically for the yarn store, and the reason for that is because this is the color of our hockey team, and so this is really high in demand, and I would not be able to keep up with the online demand for this yarn. So it's in the shop only. That being said, I had crocheted a version, or I took the crocheted version I did, and I did it in this yarn. And I actually ended up having still about 70 grams of the yarn left, so I'm doing a knit version now too. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I really want the people who go into the yarn store and buy the yarn, I want them to have the opportunity to see patterns available in this yarn and kind of how it looks knit up. So this is also kind of a sampler. So I've got some garter stitch here, I've got some eyelets, and then I've got some stockinette, and I'm doing some more eyelets, and then I'm going to do maybe a different texture for the next section before I figure out how to, tie it all together. Anyway, so that's going to be really fun. I'm really excited to be getting some work on this. It is a little slow, and apparently I just stopped in the middle of a row. But this is really fun, and I will do the pattern when I kind of get everything situated. I'll knit it again in another yarn so that people can kind of see it in a couple of different yarns and decide how they like it. Excuse me. And also because when I release the pattern, I want them to have the opportunity to use a yarn that's actually more accessible than the one that's exclusive to the shop, because I don't know if she's selling it on her shop online, only because it is so exclusive to the shop. But anyway, that's really fun. Working on that, I need to finish that row apparently, but I look forward to doing that. Like, I still have this much yarn, and I've made basically 1.5 bandana cowls. So that's really cool. One skein goes a long way if you know how to kind of use it. And that's another thing I'm thinking about when I'm doing any kind of designing. As a lot of people know, we've had the conversations about what are we going to do about being more inclusive, and inclusive doesn't just mean races, it means different economic statuses, it means social statuses, a lot of different things. And when I was kind of scrolling through Instagram, I saw somebody who made a suggestion, which was if we could get more designers to create more single skein projects, things that are more accessible to low-income people. That's one of the things that kind of holds back low-income people from being a part of this community, is they see a pattern and they see that it needs so much of this expensive yarn, and they're just like, well, I don't want to do that, because they're also not really understanding how far acrylics have come, or there's a lot of reasons. So I firmly believe that if I can create single skein projects, that I can bring more people into the community while also still giving them something that they'll actually really enjoy working with. Not that working with acrylic isn't enjoyable. I love working with acrylic yarns. I make a lot of things out of acrylic yarns. But there is something that's incredible about working with a really nice natural fiber, whether it be a plant fiber or an animal fiber. So if I can find a way to make the use of the nicer yarns more accessible to people who want to use them but feel like they can't, and then I'm going to try to do that. So that means a lot of single skein projects or single skein patterns, and I'm actually really thrilled to be thinking about how to get the most out of a single skein of yarn. So that's kind of how a lot of these patterns are born, is thinking about how I can get a lot for little. Let's move on to some finished objects. I don't have too many, thank goodness. Okay, so the first one I want to point out is I did finish my vector cowl. I want to give a shout out to Amy, who is Amethyst 19, I think. I'm so sorry, Amy. She actually saw the last podcast, and she charted the pattern based on just looking at it visually, which, mind-blowing. That's incredible. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. She offered some really interesting suggestions about how I could make the pattern a little bit better. And so, Amy, I have the things you suggested. I'm still playing with them. I haven't quite figured out exactly how to make all of that work. Not that I haven't figured out how to make it work. I haven't been able to get around to rewriting and testing. And the LA yarn crawl is in like a week. So the pattern is written the way I wrote it, and I actually had a couple people knit it, and they said it's fine. But I like the things that you suggested, and I do want to try it. So thank you, Amy, for that. If you haven't downloaded the Vector Cowl, it was free for about a week. It is now $1 on Ravelry. And the only reason I'm really doing that is because the promotion that Chris wants to run at the shop during the LA Yarn Crawl is free pattern with purchase, which wouldn't make sense if the pattern was already free. So I'm making it $1. And that's just because I did do a lot of work on it, and because I did have to be so meticulous and make sure that the pattern was pretty much written and ready to go without testers, which was terrifying. But I'm happy to say that it went well. So it's on Ravelry, Vector Cowl. It's $1. If you want to pick it up, go pick it up, share it with your friends. It's really cool. Oh, that reminds me. I'm knitting a second one, and I'm doing this one in just like a skein of yarn that I had left over. Come here. So this will give you a better idea of what it's supposed to look like, because I know the yarn I used, it was a little hard to see. So this is what the pattern is supposed to show. So it's these beautiful V's with stockinette and reverse stockinette. And I'm on the last V. Yeah. And then I'll do my top ribbing on this as well. So just kind of to show you what is lying behind all of those colors in the other Vector Cowl that I knit and showed you on the last podcast. And if you go to Ravelry and look for the pattern, you'll see the finished object for that. So that was really cool. I did ship the sample to Chris at the Knitting Tree LA in LA, and I'm assuming he got it. It says it was delivered. So yeah. Anyway, that's what that looks like. The Vector Cowl available on Ravelry, $1. On the Ravelry pattern releases trend, I have a very, very basic bandana cowl that I have just released as of like an hour before filming this. This is also in my hand-dyed yarn. This is Dutch Tulips yarn. This bandana cowl is super simple, super quick. I did it in one day. It's beautiful. It works in any worsted weight yarn. Actually, you could really do it in any weight yarn as long as you make it fit. So, this pattern is free on Ravelry. It is called the Basic Bandana. You can go and find that. And if you are interested in the Dutch Tulips colorway for this, that is available on the shop starting as soon as I remember to put it up there, which will probably be tomorrow. Are you eating my bag, sweeties? No. Come here. Stop eating my bags. These dogs, if they don't have something they're chewing on, they're mad at me. Anyway, I will have a limited number of the skeins of this yarn available on the shop probably tomorrow. So by the time this podcast goes up, it'll actually be the day. They'll have gone up one day previous. Anyway, so this yarn will be available, and if you get it before March 31st, you'll get 20% off. And when you find the coupon code that's in the video description box below, because I'm going to tell myself to do it like 5 times, there's a % off for that too. So, yeah, really easy pattern, really gorgeous, and by the way, this yarn is super soft, and you are doing yourselves a really awesome favor by getting it just because it's soft. Shameless plug for my yarn. No, but I kept... Okay, so this is the second... So this is the worsted version of what's in my Make Your Own Luck shawl. So I've actually kept one skein of the colorway in both weights, and I love it. And it's so soft and squishy, and I wore this to work, and I love it. So that's also a finished object, because I did make this. Last finished object was a Crochet Along for the Fros crochet hooks, and it was a pattern designed by Tony Lipsy of TL Yarn Crafts, and if you haven't seen TL Yarn Crafts on YouTube, you should, because it's awesome. I don't know where this is. Where's the edge? Okay, so I did this as a Crochet Along because I haven't done a Crochet Along, and I just really wanted to, and a friend of mine from my yarn store was like, hey, we should do this together, so we did. And so far, I think I'm like the only person who's actually finished, who has actually posted anything. Anyway, here it is. This thing has, I guess, 7.5 foot wingspan. It is massive. It is huge. And I don't think it was supposed to be. Her yarn was like a DK weight, and mine ended up being like a heavy worsted, so I just ended up with a really, really big shawl. I did figure out how to wear it, and you can see that on Instagram. Anyway, this actually only... So, because it was 3 or 4 weeks. I think it's 4 weeks. And so you got sections 1 and 2, which is 1 and 2. Then you got... Wait, no. 1... Then this is 2, and then 3, and then 4 is this last purple section, and then 5 was a border, and you could do an applied I-cord or bobbles. An applied I-cord is an interesting way to crochet an I-cord onto your work. And that just seemed like a lot. So I didn't do a border. But I'm making 2 more of these. I've got one that kind of sits in my desk at work, and I've got one that's here under my bed, and I'm using up some old Red Heart yarns to kind of just get that done. This is actually using Mondial Merino Plus, that's the tan and the navy. The purple is one of the Knit Crate yarns, and then this mint color is one of my other Knit Crate yarns. I actually found a use for them. And so I really love the way that these colors play with each other and how they came out. I love that there's sparkle in this purple section, and I love the texture that Tony came up with for that end of that. I'm really excited to make the second one, and I hope it drapes as well. This is a really drapey piece. So I'm really looking forward to making the other two. I'm much further on one than I am the other, which I guess would make sense because I spend a lot of my day at work. Anyway, so that's what's going on with this. Yeah, that's my finished objects. Moving on to some things that are new. I invested... Okay, well, I didn't invest. All of these were gifted. Anyway, I now have Fros crochet hooks. And I bought the leather cases, but all of the crochet hooks were gifts from my friend Keisha. So this is a Fros Streamline crochet hook. A very nice ergonomic hook. This is made of ebony wood. And the streamlines range from $16 to $19, I think. Sounds about right. And I have never enjoyed crocheting so much. In fact, ever since getting this first hook, I have not stopped crocheting something. I carry these in my backpack to work, and I have yarn at work, and sometimes I will just pull them out and start crocheting because I love these hooks so much. Now, I know that this being a budget channel, not everybody has the money to drop on Fros crochet hooks, but if you have the opportunity, or if you find the coupon code or know somebody who has coupon codes, or you come across somebody who doesn't know what they have and they're selling it, snatch it up. I have never enjoyed crocheting as much as I have with Fros crochet hooks. The only thing is they come in a box and they don't really have... They recommend that these not be travel hooks just because these will break. If you drop it, they have a tendency to shatter. So they recommend that you either have these pouches or you just don't travel with them. Like, they're not your travel hooks. I'm ignoring all of that. I mean, I got the cases, but I'm definitely traveling with these hooks. I took them on a plane. And but I have a 4.5, a 5.5, and a 6.5 millimeter. So I'm looking to expand my collection. I'm looking to get a 9 millimeter and a 5 millimeter. There's a lot of things that call for a 5 millimeter, and I just don't have one. I do hope to get a full set one day, but that's way down the line. That's not something that's really in my budget forecast at the moment. But if I ever have the opportunity to gift myself something, I think it's going to be these hooks because, oh my god, I love these hooks so much. Actually, because they're so slick and sleek and the yarn just like slides across these like butter, why has nobody made ebony knitting needles? Because I would buy some ebony knitting needles. I will drop money on ebony knitting needles. And please don't tell me that they already made some and where I can get them, because that's not something I need to be doing right now. I love my Chow Goose. But, okay, yeah. Fros crochet hooks, I love them. I have them. They're great. And I want to thank Keisha for giving these 3 to me, because now I am 100% obsessed. What's next? Oh my god, guys. Target has yarn. Oh my god. Target has yarn. Why is this upside down? Where am I going? Here. No, here. Here. Target has yarn, y'all. Yarn. Oh my god. Ah! Okay, so it's $3.99 a skein. And girl, we just need to go over it. Okay, so this colorway is called Marine. It is a worsted weight. And where's the yardage? 219 yards for 100 grams. It's 100% acrylic, but oh my god, it is giving everything at Walmart a run for its money. This one's called Dusk. It's the same content. This is just 180 yards for 100 grams. Yeah, I guess they weigh the same. How do you get so much more? Maybe the color weighs this one down? Or maybe this is spun tighter. I don't know. Either way, these are gorgeous. I'm going to do a full review on these also on the channel very soon. But again, I need to figure out what I want to make with them, because I like to make stuff with the yarn that I have. But this, oh my god, guys. Target is doing everything it can to keep me out of Walmart. And it's working. I don't need to be shopping at Target. It's more expensive for no reason. Whatever. Target has yarn, y'all. $3.99 a ball. And if it's not in your local Target, it is online, so that's a thing. Oh, everything just popped. God, I feel like my body is older than I am. Oh, okay, so another stash enhancement. I went and picked up Woolease Cakes. So this is by Lion brand, and it's 590 yards. So this is the exact same thing as Mandala, but this is 20% wool, 80% acrylic, whereas Mandala is just 100% acrylic. This is literally the exact same thing. It's the same weight, it's the same yardage, same series of colorway names. This one's Hikate or something like that. Anyway, it's the exact same thing, but it's got a little bit of wool in it. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I picked it up because I really liked this combination of colors. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I'm a little underwhelmed because this is almost the exact same thing as their cupcake, which I think was the previous Mandala. I don't know. Lion brand is like, here's all the same thing, but with a different name, so it's different. But it's not. Anyway, I picked it up because it was like $4.97. It was like $5. So, of course, I like getting as much as I possibly can. It's like $1 for 100 yards. It's actually less than $1 for 100 yards because there's almost 600 yards. It's less than $1 for 100 yards. Yeah. So, anyway. Stash enhancement. So in a podcast a while ago, I talked about how I was in a random Michaels and I came across this thing called Endless Impeccable, which is 1,790 yards of acrylic yarn for $20. So literally an hour before I started filming this podcast, I went to my local Michaels again. I went to the one that's closest to me, not to the one that was across town. Well, they have it. And Michaels has it on their website. It's $20. So I went up there to pay for it, fully expecting to pay $40. And guess what? It's already on clearance for $9.97 at my local Michaels. It's $9.97 for 1,790 yards of yarn. So I bought two. Okay, so I already had black. Hear me out. I already had black. So I got white and I got gray. And what I'm hoping to do is I came across this pattern for a cloak. And I love cloaks. So I'm gonna make a cloak. And the top is gonna be white, and the middle's gonna be gray, and the bottom is gonna be black, and then I'm gonna end with enough black to make the hood. So I'll have a black hood with a white top, gray middle, black bottom. Y'all, I'm gonna make a cloak. And when I start it, I'm gonna have to, like, not do anything else. We might not get a podcast during this period of time because I'm gonna be making this cloak. And the pattern is in my backpack, I think? That sounds right. Anyway, so it actually calls for, like, chunky or bulky weight yarn and a 9mm crochet hook. But, one, I don't have a 9mm crochet hook. Don't you dare eat my Fros crochet leather. And two, I don't have enough bulky weight yarn for that. I didn't want to buy... I can't really say I didn't want to buy any, because clearly I bought yarn. I just feel like I'm getting a lot more for my money for this. And also, I don't really have an also. I'm going to make a cloak, y'all. Okay, what else is on this nightmare? I want to show you some more of my hand-dyed colorways because I feel like not a lot of people really know what I'm offering, and also because sometimes the pictures on the site aren't, like, perfect representations. I mean, it's hand-dyed. You can't have exact representations. But I want to show you what I have and what I offer, and I hope that'll help you see what I have. I don't have words anymore. I'm just rambling. Okay, so the first one that's really popular is Echoes of the Mojave. It's brown, russet, burnt orange, and spruce. They're kind of mixed in here. This is a really fun colorway. All of my fingering weight yarns are 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. So it's great for shawls and cowls, but it's also still sturdy enough for socks. So these are really great. Echoes of the Mojave is actually what I gave Tracy of the Grocery Girls. Her skein, of course, even in the same dye pot, every skein's going to come out different. So her skein actually ended up with a lot more of the oranges and russets and a lot less of the browns and spruces. So this one has a lot more of the browns and spruces and a lot less of the red and burnt orange. But they are in there. So every skein is different. Of course, if you use more than one, you definitely want to alternate so that you're getting the full look and it doesn't pull funny. Anyway, so that is Echoes of the Mojave. I also have that on worsted weight, but it actually kind of looks vastly different. This is what Echoes of the Mojave looks like on worsted weight. It sounds like people are drag racing. Wow. Yep, that's people drag racing their motorcycles. This city's crazy. So this is Echoes of the Mojave on worsted weight. It came out different, and that's just because of the way that the yarn takes up the dye. I actually really like both. I really like the way this turned out. This is how I originally imagined the colorway when I was creating it, and this is really just the first time it has come out the way I was hoping. So the kind of annoying thing about being a really small batch dyer is that each batch, until you really perfect how you create the colorway, the first few batches are all vastly different. And so when somebody orders multiple quantities, I have to make sure I'm giving them the same batch. Because I have another one in here, actually. Yeah, here's a different version of the same yarn. Which reminds me, so what happened here is that I'm still really new to mixing dye stock and using pre-mixed dye stock instead of mixing it like as I'm working. So what happened is I had a very diluted version of all of the dye stock, whereas this one, they were not diluted, they were very concentrated, and I like this better. So I'm actually going to keep this skein for me. Speaking of mine. So that's just an example of how until you figure out the exact science, dyeing's not an exact science, even though there's a lot of math involved. So it should be an exact science, but it's not. So that's just kind of what happens. But I like this version a whole lot better, and this is what's going to be starting. This is what I'm going to be replicating from now on. Another one that's on the shop is this one, which we had a contest for on the Spargur Yarn Company Instagram, this is Ectoplasm. It is a nice radioactive green with orange and purple speckles, also on the 8515 fingering weight yarn. This is not on the shop yet, but this is a nice olive green, and then it's got some like pink speckles and some other colors in there as well. I'm calling this Cactus Flower. And this will be on the shop soon. It is not up yet. This is a 100% superwash merino. This is actually an example of how I got this right between the two different ones. This is Fishbowl on fingering and on worsted. Fishbowl's already listed. The fingering weight's already listed. The worsted weight I haven't actually offered on the shop yet, because the last time I dyed worsted weight Fishbowl, it went to my local yarn store. So this will be on the shop soon. This is already up if you want to get that. So Fishbowl, lots of fun colors. Yeah. So like I said, here's Dutch Tulips. This is the worsted weight version. Now this version, the yellow is a little more, it's not muted, it's more saturated and not as bright. And the purple is actually a little bit lighter. And I actually really like kind of how that turned out. But I think I will go to the darker purple the next time. But there are going to be skeins of this on the shop very soon as well. What else is hiding in here? Oh, I have rainbow minis. Some rainbow minis. Check those out. This is a fun one. This is Radioactive Rose Garden. This is on a merino cashmere nylon, so it's an 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. There's a few skeins of this left. Really, really fun. I haven't kept any of this for myself. I might dig through and see how many I have left, but this is a really fun colorway. Here's the fingering weight Dutch tulips. Oh, this is on MCN. Yeah, so the fingering weight Dutch tulips is on MCN. So that's really fun. This is the color, the purple. I wanted it. That's not what I got on the worsted. But this is a really, really, really fun colorway. I think that is it, really. I do have a few skeins of some alpaca solids, so you can check those out on the site. They're just chilling. It's 100% baby alpaca. If nobody buys it in like the next, I don't know, couple months, I might just keep it. It's really pretty. This one's called Lemon Drop. Okay, yeah, that's all the colorways I have, except for one, which I want to point out, because I have 3 or 4 skeins of this left. If you go to the Budget Knitter Etsy shop, there's some skeins of something very similar, either this or very similar to this. It's called Whoopsie. I was trying to replicate a really old colorway called Playing with Mom's Makeup. Some of you will remember that colorway. And while I was trying to do it, I spilled a lot of dye powder. So this is just kind of, it's a whoopsie. So there are four skeins left on the shop, I think. That sounds right. 4 skeins of this whoopsie yarn left. So that's kind of how the Etsy shop is working right now, is if I screw something up and I don't feel like I need to do anything with it or anything serious with it, or I don't want to carry it in the Spargur Yarn Company store, I'll move it to Etsy and then sell it for production costs. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. I guarantee you're actually going to like the price of this. So that's available there. Again, there are only 4, so if you want it, grab it, because they're not going to last long. I originally had 10 of these, so 6 have already sold. Okay, so that's all I have for colorways. And so yeah, SpargurYarn.com, that's where all my hand-dyed stuff is. My brain's a little fried right now. But we're going to truck right along because I've got a little bit more to go through. I don't have any other final announcements. So for those of you who are just here for the fiber-related stuff, you are more than welcome to go about your day or your evening. And no hard feelings here. Again, I just really appreciate you coming and supporting me here on this channel. So if you are headed out, thank you for joining me. For those of you who are going to stay, I do have a few life updates, and I will cover those, and then we will part ways for the rest of for a little bit. Anyway, so life updates. I really only have one big one. So, a few of you know this because you've reached out to me before. I have done a lot of trying to keep up appearances because there's just something about admitting failure that just really hurts. And it's not something I like to think about. But you kind of can't help it when it's staring at you in the face. So Lee and I have been struggling for a while. It hasn't been easy. It's been very difficult. Some of it's my fault, some of it's his. There's not really one person to blame. I I don't know what the future really holds right now between the two of us, but I know that in 2 weeks he won't be living here. He has accepted a job in Maryland, and he is going to move. And I'm not. I'm going to stay here. So there's a lot of things that are really uncertain right now. I don't know what that means in terms of our relationship. I don't know what that means in terms of a lot of things, really. Because financially, I can't afford to live here on my own. So I'm kind of on like a frantic roommate search right now. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I'm a little numb. Part of me is really scared and sad. And the other part of me, because we've had so many problems, is just ready to say, get out and leave me alone. And I hate feeling that way. But I also can't help it. I don't know. It's really hard to let go of someone who hurt you. Especially when you still love them. For anyone wondering, he hasn't hit me or anything like that. It's just a bunch of little things, really. It's not like a major event. It's just kind of a bunch of little things. And it takes a toll, and you feel unimportant, like you're not being listened to, like the things you feel, the things you say, and like they just don't matter. And it sucks. It really does. So I'm trying to get through it. I'm powering through. The knitting and crocheting helps. Like, it really is therapy. I've got a good support system, a lot of really good friends and family who is listening to me and trying to understand what I'm going through. So before any of you are like really worried, I'm okay. I'm not in a great place, but I'm not in a bad place. I'm just kind of somewhere in the middle, and I take it one day at a time. Oh my goodness. Leave me alone. I take it one day at a time, and I wake up in the morning, and I actually do this. I get into work, and the first thing I do when I sit down and clock in is I have a post-it note, a stack of post-it notes. And every morning I write, today is going to be a good day. And I stick it somewhere in my cubicle. So now I've probably got like 30 or 40 post-it notes that all say today is going to be a good day. And that's how I start my day when I get to work, is telling myself today is going to be a good day. And it's really helping. And of course I have my knitting, and I have my crochet, and I have my dyeing, and I have this podcast, and I'm getting through. And that doesn't mean that when he does finally pull out of the driveway for the last time that I'm not going to be really hurt. But I know that I'm going to get through it. And I know that I'm going to be stronger on the other end when this is all said and done. So that's kind of the big thing that's going on. That's just been a really big weight. I've known he was going to move for about a month. And beyond that, for like the last 6 months, I've just known that things were not going in a direction that I had hoped. And I know several of you were able to see that and had reached out because you were concerned, and I want to thank you for that, because it did give me an outlet to be able to talk to somebody. A few of the friends that I have that are a great support system, they're also kind of a little stubborn, and they don't want to listen to... All they hear is the bad and telling me, like, you need to leave, you need to stop this, you need to stop putting up with it, and blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen to me try to verbalize the struggle. They just want to listen long enough to say, just be done with it. And that's not the kind of support I needed. So a few of you have reached out, and I've been able to actually say the things that needed to be said. So thank you for those of you who reached out. Other than that, that's actually a really big weight lifted off of my shoulders. Wow. Okay, so I hate when things end on such a sour note. I tried really hard not to do that, but that one was just weighing on me so hard it needed to come out. I make so many weird noises. Okay. Oh. Well, the puppies are asleep, so that probably means it's bedtime. Okay, so for those of you who stuck around for the life updates, thank you so much, and however you want to express concern, I appreciate all of your thoughts, and whatever way that you send positivity, whether that be thoughts, prayers, wishes, spells, seances, however you do it, I appreciate the thought, and thank you in advance for everything that... Well, thank you for everything you have done, and thank you in advance for anything you will do. I promise I am okay. I promise I'm okay. I'm here, and I plan to be here for a long time. So, thank you. I can't say thank you enough. You guys are like my family, even though I've only met a handful of you. You guys really are like my family, and it really, you warm my hearts. And so thank you so much for that. So I'm going to go. There will be more to come on this channel very, very soon. So if you haven't already, subscribe, hit that little bell so you get a notification every time I upload a video. Give this video a thumbs up. It hits the algorithms. I don't know how any of that works. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I'm so sorry for the sour note, but I promise I am positive. I'm going to have a good day. Today has been a good day. Tomorrow's going to be a good day. The day after that is going to be a good day. Every day is going to be a good day. And I'm so excited to join you again here on the Budget Knitter podcast channel very, very soon. Thank you. I love you guys. Bye.